So mixing rates are really important. Some powders, the typical mixing rates range from 12.5%, so that's 125 grams in 875 of water to make 1 litre of mixed product, up to 17%. All depends on your calves and all depends on your on the powder you're on. So a high fat powder and a high protein powder, you can actually reduce the mixing rates a little bit. So it's always a volume, it's always a mixing rate you've got to concentrate on and not the volume of liquid you put into them, because you can actually increase the mixing rates and decrease the volume and the calves will eat more concentrate. So it's all to obviously go with your supply and what you're using. So Rachel, what's your mixing rate?
So 13.5%.
13.5%,
yeah.
That's fine. On a high fat powder, it's brilliant. So it's really important. Rachel has just said she's on 13.5% mixing rate, but what we always look at, and please be careful of this, when you've got a measuring jug, which you scoop your milk out, you scoop your powder out into there, maybe 2 or 3 jugs, depending on the water and your mixing rates. But always make sure this is clean. What it does, it builds up with a dry powder after a while. And there's a surprise how many farms we go on to, and they'll go, calves aren't doing quite well, and you say to them, what's your mixing rate? Well, the mixing rate's this. We weighed our jug 2 years ago, and it was this weight. Well, 2 things. Your powder density can change from different brands and different makes and different fat and protein levels, but also you can get a residue here. So keep this as clean so you know the exact amount going in. You only need to be 10 or 15% out with your mixing rates, and your calves won't do as well. So it's really important. Look at the little tip. Rachel keeps hers really nice and clean. So it's dead important to do this. Okay. Mixing rates. Depending on powders, we can have different mixing rates. As we said, we started off at 12.5% and we can go up to 17%. It depends on 2 things: the breed of your calf, what you're looking to do with your calves. Some people are feeding up to 1.2 kilos of powder and getting growth rates of 1.2 kilos a day. Other ones are feeding a little bit less, 750, 800 grams. A lot of it depends on the calves, on your breed of calf, on your position, on your health of your calves going in. The important part when you're starting to move your calves over from cow's milk, and Rachel, do you keep your calves on for 4 days, the beast milk, or when do you swap them over onto milk powder?
Yeah, so basically we try to give them 6 feedings of colostrum.
Yep.
And then they'll then get swapped over to the milk powder.
The milk powder.
Yeah.
And do you do that straight away in one go, or do you?
Yeah, we do it straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we recommend that. So 3 to 4 days is usually colostrum first, then the mother's milk or pooled milk after that, as long as it's pasteurised and clean, and then they'll go on to the milk replacer. As Rachel said, we agree with that. Moving straight onto the milk replacer, it's absolutely fine. They're designed to be able to do that, so you don't have to mix half and half. Put them straight onto the milk powder. And then, Rachel, for the first few days, how much do you feed them for the first litre volume-wise?
It depends on obviously the size of the calf. Yeah. But 2 to 3 litres we try for.
Each end of the day.
To start off with, obviously twice a day. And then obviously we just build from there, really.
Perfect. It's really important what Rachel said there. It depends on the size of the calf. So if you had a little Jersey calf at 25 to 30 kilos or a crossbred calf, if you think about its insides, it's amazing. It's got a very small capacity compared to a Belgian Blue, a 45, 50 kilo calf. Its capacity inside is going to be a lot bigger, so it can actually take more product. The nutritional scours we get on an early stage from transferring from cow's milk to milk replacer is often by just overfeeding. So with Abamazing is overfilled, it then backs into the rumen, which isn't designed for that. It's not even grown yet, it's only not developed, and it can give a nutritional scour. Those nutritional scours are really pretty easy to get rid of with the normal electrolytes, and they'll soon dry up. Just lower the milk, add the electrolytes into it. But the danger is if you've got pathogens and disease issues on the farm, then because the calves are at weakness, it can actually jump on the back and it can give a bacterial scour, which are the really dangerous ones where you've got to go in with antibiotics, etc., etc. So it's really important when you're swapping them over, that first 10 days is a crucial period. Okay, if you think about the calf, its stomach it's changing diets, and it's very weak, it's very low, it's not really developed as yet. So as Rachel said, start them off slowly. So we say 2 to 2.5 litres, depends on the size of the calf. And then you build them up to the 3 litres to 3.5 litres at week 4 to 5. So We always can kill a calf with kindness. My late father used to say this. You can always overdo a calf, which will scar it. So just start it off for the first few days. Just monitor it, as Rachel does. I'm sure you'll see if a calf's a little bit loose and a little bit diarrhea. You probably cut it down a little bit, or you had a little bit of lectide into it. Perfect. Just watch them for the first few days. We do products, and there's a lot of products on the market now which has got what they call transitional powder. So we've got a powder which is 25% skim powder. What it is, it's got extra hemoglobins in, it's got a globulogen in, and what it does, it protects the stomach on that transitional period. They are good products. A lot of products out there. It's quite good to do that if you're having trouble moving them over. But again, as Rachel said, if you do it slowly, you don't seem to get a problem. Just going on to milk powders a little bit and the different types. You've got whey and you've got skim powder. Most people understand this. Your skim powder digests like cow's milk, so it goes into the abomasum, goes into a solid, and then it's slowly digested, where whey powder is digested in the intestine as a liquid. Both designed to do this. This is how they work. We, as a company, we sell both. We actually prefer skim powders because it's a really good follow-on to cow's milk. Rachel, you're on our Energy Plus powder, which is the high-end 50% skim powder, 23 fat, 23 protein and 24 fat. So it's a high energy powder, which is great in the winter. But it follows on really easy. So we would recommend as a company a skim powder. For the skim powder to really work to its best business, it's got to be over an 18% skim powder. So if you're looking for a skim powder to buy, just look at the volume of skim powder. If it's below 18%, it's just going to work as a whey powder, which is fine, but it will not work as a skim powder. So just look at that percentage. Always ask your supplier your percentage of skim powder within that product. The more skim powder you put in, the more dairy protein you get in. So our 40 and 50% skim powders are 100% dairy protein. This is the best protein for the calves. It's easy to digestible as baby calves. On your whey powders, on your lower fat and protein powders, you've got a potential of vegetable proteins in there, which is absolutely fine. They work, but they don't work as well as dairy proteins, especially as young calves. As the calves get bigger, they absolutely work fine, but as baby calves, they digest the powder a lot better.
Whey powder is cheaper, is it, than skim? Or
it used to be a big difference between the two, and what a lot of people, when we first started milk powder years and years ago, everybody was on a whey powder because skim powder was quite expensive and whey powder was very cheap. But there's actually leveled up a lot now because whey powder goes into the human food chain a lot more for whey powder, body shakes, all this kind of thing. So where the skim hasn't really dropped, the whey's come up in value because of the supply and demand. So on like for like, it tend to be your whey powders are cheaper, but as the more skim, as a golden rule for your price of your milk powder, the more skim you put in your powder, the dearer your powder will be and the better it will be. Your fat and proteins, we went down the route several years ago of going for really high proteins in milk powder, which actually are fine, but you've also got to be very careful on all protein diets because protein diets can give calves diarrhea. So people have gone off that a little bit now, so they're dropping the protein levels. So protein levels anywhere from 20%, which is the lower side, to up to 24%, I think is fine. We've also got, and there's a lot of research that's being done by balancing it up, so and sometimes in reversing, so your higher fat is more important now. So high fat will give calves energy, especially in the winter months when we've got dark days, with no vitamin E or A in it because we don't see the sunlight, and it will give them more of a boost. So we have some customers on high energy powder in the winter, and then in the summer they go to a lower cost powder because they don't need as much energy. Always talk to your rep, always talk to your guy about your milk powders, but it's really important to get the right one for your farm. But as you say, skim powders we prefer above whey powder.
And that's a skim powder here, isn't it?
This is a skim powder. This is our Energy Plus. This is one of our top of the range. It's a 50% skim, 100% dairy protein, 23% protein and 24 oil. So it's slightly higher in oil than protein. As long as you've got an oil level over 18%, it will do the job. But the higher you go, the more energy you get for your calves. Have you found things going on to it, calf health, and
I've seen a massive difference since being on this powder. Even down to the coats, they look lovely. they look really, really well. Best they've ever looked, to be honest. They look really well.
Rachel puts a really good point there. We did some trial work with Harper Adams going back 10 years ago now. We had a student who was doing a dissertation on difference between whey and skim. And although the whey and the skim, and it was a 25% skim, so it wasn't as good as this powder we used compared to a whey powder. Similar fat and proteins, one was whey, one was skim, exactly fed the same amount. And growth rates were very similar. Okay, the skim powder staged it by about half a kilo, which is not too significant. But on the bloom score and the health score, they were miles above. And we always notice as farmers, we don't weigh calves every day. We should weigh calves regularly. You know, in my opinion, you should be weighing calves every 10 days, etc., just to make sure growth rates are good. But the first thing we notice is bloom. And if a calf is got a really shiny coat, really black eyes, really alert calf, that's a calf that's grown and doing really well. And you'll notice that if they're on cow's milk, and you'll notice that if they're on milk replacer, on the skim powder, because it just digests like cow's milk. So always go for your skim powder. Look at the value of the skim powder. Your fat and your proteins, minimum fat and protein is 20, protein up to 24, and minimum fat is 18 up to 23. If you're in those ranges, you've got a decent powder. Also, really important to talk about is probiotics. All milk powders, most milk powders have got a probiotic in. This is for gut health. What it does, it balances the pH out in the stomach, makes the gut really nice for the calf. But it's also, we've got a product with biotin in. Biotin is for hoof strength. Dead important. We're trying to calve now calves, heifer calves that's 22 months, 2 years. This is very young for animals, so we've got to get good growth rates. We're finding that biotin in the product really actually helps to strengthen those cows' feet, because as cows now know, and especially on grazing systems, they've got a lot of walking to do, and hoof health is one of the main things.
Very good.